Sipping lemonade, throwing light shade.
Okay. What's up, y'all? Happy holidays. Happy holidays to everyone. This is like the last month of the year. Like, this is the last live of the year. So y'all better enjoy this while I go on a break and be gone. But how y'all doing? It's Whopping Wednesday. This particular topic I'm gonna be talking about tonight, I didn't want to talk about this. And I don't know why I even put a poll. Well, I don't even know why I put a poll up. And the reason why I didn't really want to talk about it is because, oh, thank you. It's because, like, I have childhood trauma, and as we go through, like, the depths of it is where I'm going to give, you know, just briefly some of the things that I've been through as well. But when we talk about childhood trauma, it's like how I cope is by suppressing it in the back of my mind, right? So having to talk about it, but I told myself it's December. Hold on, let me turn Frank Ocean down a little bit. I love Frank Ocean. This is mixtape Frank Ocean. Everybody don't know about that mixtape Frank Ocean. You can't even get this on streaming platforms, okay? So it's the last month of 2022. And I feel like many of us, especially my generation, we have so much trauma. we have so much trauma, and I came to a conclusion just based off of like many of the stories that we share on platforms, on TikTok, on Twitter. And it's like, why are so many of us in the comments, hey Sharonda girl, happy holidays? Like, why are so many of us went through the same shit? And it's effed up. But we are just moving along in life like, it's good, it's good, it's good. And when it's not good at all right? Now, did you all know that 78% of children have reported more than one traumatic experience, you know, before the age of 5, all right? And all these particular things, they can mean abuse, physical, verbal, emotional, sexual abuse, neglect, household challenges, you know, many changes when it comes to death and serious illness, or when it comes to divorce or separation. You know, a lot of parents as well were single parents, so that can definitely affect the kids as well. Community, don't even get me started on the things that goes on in the community. I mean, when you hear a lot of these rappers, even when they have like their interviews and in their music, like how easily it is for them to talk about seeing people gunned down. Like, why is that normal that so many of us who are not even 40 yet have witnessed people get gunned down in our neighborhoods? Like, that shit is not normal. It's not normal. But for some odd reason, we are just moving throughout life, going through anxiety, depression. People are using substance abuse just to push the pain behind. And there are all types of ways also that we cope with childhood trauma without, you know, substance abuse. Eating, you know what I'm saying? Pushing it behind your brain, like I mentioned earlier as well, when it comes to, dang, there's a lot of people in here. Hey, well, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that y'all coming in here, because I feel like this topic is something that, for one, I think we all just need to focus our direction on something that there's more to talk about in life than talking about relationships and 50-50 relationships. Okay, all right. If you want to do a 50-50 relationship, that's by you. But things like this right here is something that came up when I went to therapy. Let's talk about therapy, because many of us, you know, color folks, you know, we don't go to therapy. And when I went to therapy, one thing I realized was like, the first session, I'm a defense person. I won't lie, I'm a defense person. And many of us who have been through childhood trauma, that's how we cope, right? It's normal to us, even though it doesn't feel normal. So when somebody who's telling you things like, okay, that's not normal, and this is like, when they start breaking down all the things that you may have went through as a child and then you're a grown adult, you look at it as something's wrong with me. Like what's wrong with me? Like what's wrong with me? When something can be wrong with you, you can recognize it and heal. And that's the stage that I'm in currently right now, all right? So one of the things that I really want to talk about is how I realized when it comes to my childhood trauma when I went to therapy was just talking about things that I went through in my childhood, right? I don't remember a lot of stuff from my childhood. And it's suppressed in my memory. I didn't even know it was a disorder for that. It's suppressed in my memory, and I think maybe like 2 years ago, just talking to a particular family member, how easily certain things started coming back, and it really started scaring me. Like as I move throughout life and get older and older, certain things are coming back to me from when I was like 9 to 10 years old. And they call that is what you call, hold on, I got it. This is called a memory loss, where you repress everything in your brain, right? So your brain pushes everything in the back of your head so you can forget about it, right? Exactly. Because even now, you know, a lot of things that I went through as a child, being a mom, especially with a daughter, you know, I'm constantly trying to make sure that my daughter is happy. And I have a way of expressing myself through words. Being a kid, everything that I felt, I didn't feel like I could talk to nobody. I didn't feel like I could feel comfortable with anybody. You know, one of the particular things that I had was diaries. So I remember one particular diary, y'all, that I had. It was Winnie the Pooh diary. And I know exactly where I buried that diary. I buried that diary when I got finished with it. So when I was a kid, I buried it in my old neighborhood. I know exactly where it's at. I buried it for that particular reason. And I don't even know what's in that diary, but I have a second diary that I have currently with me. And I remember like maybe a year ago, this is during, you know, quarantine, I went in there and I read through my diary. And I was so depressed. Like, why was I 9 years old talking about, like, I wanted to die? Like, that's, and I don't remember feeling that depressed as an adult, because I have suppressed all of that hurt and pain in the back of my mind. You know, having somebody, I didn't experience anything like, you know, too crazy, like sexual abuse or anything, or physical abuse. What I experienced was like childhood trauma from family, right? And one of the particular things that I remember as a kid was my older cousins. Like, I'm talking about my first cousin. These ain't just like regular cousins. I'm talking about my older cousins. I remember like hearing little slick shit when they would like refer to me as a crack baby, right? So at that time, at that age, I was too young to comprehend what exactly that meant. Until like in my full-blown adulthood, in my 20s, you know, hearing a particular family member refer to, oh, my mom being on drugs when I was a kid. It all, like, imagine how all of that felt coming back as an adult. Like, all that shit that I suppressed in the back of my head, because I as an adult, like, I've never felt close with my family. Like, I believe now as an adult, moving on, building my own family, but all of that came back to when I was a little kid and hearing my cousins, you know, make little I'm not talking about little cousins my age, older cousins. I'm talking about I'm a little girl and these are big grown ass teenagers saying little slick stuff, right? So that really traumatized me to that, you know, little girl where I didn't even feel comfortable like speaking up for myself when I heard particular things. And it really messed up my self-esteem. Like your family, my childhood trauma comes from my family. They really tried to dim my light. And I didn't realize how special I was and why they were so threatened about me until I got older and started, learning stuff about why my grandmother loved me so much, right? So that's a part of childhood trauma. Now, we're going to go and get into a lot of these things. A lot of times I have a lot of friends, and how casually we talk about the shit that we went through. Like, see how I just, and that's just the icing on the cake. That's just the icing on the cake about what I was doing. Exactly. Exactly. At that time as a kid, you know something's not right, but a lot of times adults be the main ones to make kids feel like something's wrong with them for feeling how they feel. You don't even feel like you can express yourself. Like, I've had people that I've met before who have been through abuse within the family, and when they try to go to family members to talk about what they have been through, family members put the blame on them. We know about that. I hear so many stories, amongst social platforms about girls who are talking about how when they went to their mothers to talk about things that they was going through, the mother didn't believe them. So imagine being a child when you're going through something as a little kid, and you go to your parent, the people that's supposed to protect you, your parents, and they don't even believe you. You grow up as an adult and you don't even trust people. Like, if you can't trust your family, how can you trust the world? Like, how can you form relationships? How can child trauma affect you? For one, addiction and mental health disorders. Like, so many people, weed, I don't smoke weed, okay? And another thing that I realized is this too, like, even though weed is just so natural, weed is very natural. Weed doesn't hurt anybody. But I have not smoked it. Why have I not smoked it? Think about it. Remember earlier in the show when I talked about how my cousins, would prefer to me as a crack baby? And as I'm getting older, I'm putting two and two together. Okay, well, my mom been battling drugs all her life. My dad was a drug dealer. Here I am today. You know what I'm saying? So knowing that, it's like, I don't want to be that. Like, I don't want to be that at all. Like, I don't want to be that at all. So even though weed is just so natural, I don't want any type of thing that can be considered that. I thought, I went years thinking, it's just, me not giving in to peer pressure. It's something deeply rooted in me that makes me not even want to be the stigma, right? The stigma of that crack baby that my cousins used to talk about me as growing up, possibly being that. You give it. This is stuff I learned in therapy, right? And how particular things. Now I guess that's a positive. I guess that's a positive in it. I guess so. Yeah, you don't want to be what they labeled you as. You don't want to be what they thought that you would be. I guess that's a positive. I guess a lot of people are, using, drugs to cope with their feelings. I feel like when it comes to, drugs like weed, that's something that should be like a drink. Okay, you're going to have a blunt today. When you are, smoking your life away just to get the pain through, like, you're smoking just so you don't have to feel pain. And I've met so many people, especially a lot of men, who smoke not because they just enjoy weed. They're smoking because they deal with so much anxiety and so much depression that smoking numbs them, right? And it's not just weed. I'm talking about there are so many people that go to heavy drugs just to kind of numb themselves from a lot of things that they have been through throughout a child. Next is, attraction to unhealthy relationships. Let's get into that as well. Now I take it back to me being a kid. Like, I remember, my mom had this particular person. Like, I can't even tell you how many people as a kid who really tried to fuck with my self-esteem. Right? Like, even to this day, like, I will swing on you. one of them already tried to swing on 5 years ago. They ain't got to worry about them no more. But attraction to unhealthy relationships. When you are a child and you're surrounded by so many unhealthy relationships, it can be, suppressing everything. You're surrounded by so many unhealthy relationships in your household, whether it's physical abuse, verbal abuse, all of that fighting, drama, you know what I'm saying? Or either you have a particular parent who's constantly bringing different people around you. Like, that can affect you as a child going into your adulthood, all right? Either way, you could be the type of person who, saw your mother being abused. Now, you as a man, you're going through life abusing women because you don't know how to take out your frustration. Or you could be a particular woman who saw your mom being abused in the household. Now you're going throughout life thinking a form of love is abuse. Because that's what you saw as a kid. Like, as a kid, we not programmed to understand politics and lifestyle and social things. We're just a kid, and all we're seeing is the world through these two innocent eyes. So much trauma and so much bullshit are being put in front of our faces as a kid. You grow up thinking that particular things are okay. Me personally, in my case, what I've learned from my situation, having my mother in such a toxic situation, the person that you just moved them in our house. Just moved them in our house. They were very mean to me. Their daughter was mean to me. And now that I'm a mom, like, nobody is not coming in my house. Like, my daughter ain't meeting nobody. Like, so I guess, I guess as I'm talking about it, I took all my child trauma and did the opposite of what I saw was wrong. But that's just me. There are so many people who don't realize that their childhood drama is affecting them. If you all remember the whole situation with Chris Brown and, his abuse and his anger, and one of the things that came up, I'm not making an excuse for him, was, witnessing his mother be abused in the household, right? You as a little boy, you're experiencing this man, can't get his feelings, can't get his emotions and feelings out. He's putting hands on your mother. That can do two things. That can do two things to you. That can make you think, okay, well, that's how I need to get out my frustration, right? Because nobody, and let's think about it. Many of our parents didn't really have the balls to talk to us and come to us and say, we're sorry. A lot of our parents put us as kids in such fucked up situations. They don't have the balls to come and apologize, right? Like, nothing's worse than having narcissist parents. A narcissist parents that realize, okay, I'm making mistakes, but not even stopping and say, oh my gosh, like, I have a child that witnessed all this trauma. Like, let me go try to apologize and make it better. And many of y'all have parents in y'all lives now who ain't shit. Like, the terrible things they have done, and you have them in your life because society makes you think like they're my parents. I'm supposed to have Like, let me tell you, I learned this too. I learned this too in therapy. Sometimes you really gotta. Childhood trauma. What comes with you through childhood trauma? Mostly family, maybe even friends, right? Those type of things kind of follow you throughout life, right? So if the things that hurt you as a child, you're taking them with you throughout your adulthood. And you're not healing. You're not healing because you're bringing the toxicity with you. Yeah. They say, whenever you say I'm cutting off my family, that really does sound harsh. But not if it's for your well-being. Right? Loss of childhood memories. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but there are particular things that I just don't remember about my childhood. And one of the particular things that really, I remember I went through a really, how can I describe this? Rough patch, because I saw something when I was a kid. And I knew at that time that something wasn't right, but it didn't really hit me until 2 years ago, just based off one sentence that somebody, like a family member, said to me. And the way those visuals came back to me, you know, it really scared me. Many of us don't even remember a lot of things from our childhood. Not at all. Like, don't even remember it. And you may think that's good. You may think, no, I don't remember it. No. Because that shit will come back. Though, not for everybody. Not for everybody. In my case, I don't think I would have remembered that if nobody didn't, like, take me back to that particular time when my grandmother died. Like, how she died. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was just too young at that time to grasp, like, what the hell was going on. And that put a lot of guilt on me as a you know, adult now, going back as a child, because even though I knew something wasn't right, I feel like maybe I should have said something. But even though that's another form of blaming yourself for something that's out of your control, like as a kid, like I didn't know what I saw was wrong until I was an adult. That's another form of childhood trauma, right? You are constantly blaming yourself for what other people did, grown-ups did. And that can really F you up. And I know that F me up for a very, very long time. But I'm just blessed and happy that I'm spiritually intact. You know, you can't say too much. People think crazy. I've gotten the closure I needed. Okay? Closure I needed to know that there was nothing I could do at that time. That's the best way to explain it, you know? And I hope that one day there's going to come a time where I get to tell, you know, my own story intact. Because, you know, anytime you progress or you have some type of success, people will try to come out and speak down on you. I know it's going to come a time where particular people in my family are going to come out and try to talk about me. And that's why one day when the place is right, I'll be able to tell my own story. And let's move on, all right? Avoidance in relationships, okay? There are particular things that you move on to these relationships with your friends or with your family where you avoid a lot of things. Don't even get me started on the amount of things that people can't even communicate in relationships. You know, I don't know if you all have ever had somebody in a relationship where they don't communicate. They don't know how to love. They don't know how to show affection. You know? How can somebody show a partner love and affection and communicate properly if they didn't witness this shit growing up as a child? Nobody talked to them. Nobody communicated with them. It was nothing but negativity, violence, abuse that they grew up with. Their mother didn't tell them that they loved them. Or their father didn't tell them that they loved them. So now they're adult trying to be in relationships with people and they can't show you love and affection because they don't know how to. Right? You know? The best case scenario is, okay, well, I didn't get love and affection growing up. Maybe I can do the opposite. Everybody's brain doesn't operate like that. And that's okay. And what I've even learned too, is that, come on, girl. Exactly what Sharonda said, okay? How can I like this? Can I like this? I don't know how to do this. If I double tap it, will I like it? But yeah, yes. I agree exactly with you. So even, you know, I've met a few, you know, guys throughout my life, and they don't know how to show romance and they don't know how to show love because they didn't witness that growing up, you know. And it's made me be a lot more patient with some people, because if you don't know something and nobody don't really try to figure it out with you, like, how will you ever know? So that has kind of helped me just even talking to a lot of men, because a lot of men, more boys, experience PTS more than women. Like, I read that on a website. And if you talk to a lot of men, I feel like men these days are more intact with their emotions. You can just listen to the music that we hear a lot of these days. Sometimes, I know we say it's really dark and deep. Like, listen to people like Rod Wave, you know. He gets, oh, thank you. He gets really deep and vulnerable in his music. And this is the way that they know how to express themselves and how they're feeling. Taking it back to when I was a kid, how would I say that I would express myself? By writing in diaries, right? A lot of these men are using music to express themselves, like especially Juice WRLD. Rest in peace to Juice WRLD. And a lot of people said his music was really, really dark and deep, but he really got vulnerable. He's probably one of the most vulnerable male rappers we've had in a really long time, where he really got deep into that and talking about his drug use, coping with the pain through drugs. You know, anytime you mention the word therapy to men, you know, I'm not just gonna say black men, to all men. Absolutely not. You know, absolutely not. And what I have learned as well too is many of us girls have our own trauma and shit that we're dealing with. And I do believe that we as women can stand a lot more than men can. Having a guy put his childhood trauma and his bullshit on you when you are battling stuff as well ain't good. Because, and this is why I always say, like, you gotta heal yourself before you get into a relationship. Because the last thing we as women need, even me, I'll say even men too, is to get in a relationship with somebody who has so much trauma and they're not even trying to heal or get to the root of it, or even acknowledge that, okay, I'm going through particular things. All right. Now, can adults overcome childhood trauma? That's a good goddamn question. That's a good question. All right. And the question is, you gotta acknowledge that something's wrong. Like, personally, for me, I don't like people looking at me as a victim. You know, going back to my childhood, I always felt like, you know, being the fact that my grandmother, you know, took care of me, and, you know, my mom was a drug addict and my dad was a drug dealer. You know, my grandmother raised me and she didn't have much. So, you know, growing up, I always felt like, you know, little orphan Annie. You know, I felt like everybody felt sorry for me. You know, even I remember my godmother. You know, she was very nice to me, and she really, you know, was there for me and helped me read. But even like, so this is interesting. So I used to have a godmother, right? And she had a sister that she lived with. Like, they was like maybe like a few years older. They were like older women. And I remember her sister was just so mean to me. She was just so mean to me. You know, my godmother, she would, you know, help me with my reading. Because I remember going to a stage where I really struggled with my reading. You know, my grandmother was like 80-some years old. Like, you know, our older generation of grandparents, they ain't really know much about reading. And they knew how to write their name and count their money. Pretty much. So I remember how just mean she was. Like, I experienced a lot of mean ass, nasty ass adults growing up. And growing up as an adult, I don't like people looking at me as a victim. Like, even when I talk about particular things that I go through, I talk about it so chill. When really, like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. Like, I remember talking to a homegirl of mine like a few weeks ago, and we was on the phone, and I was telling her, like, she was like, wow, Kayla, I'm so sorry. And I was like, girl, it's all right. It's not. It's not all right. It's not all right. You know, it's not all right. Like, it's not. You know. And I wish we as a generation just stop telling ourselves like it's all right, because we just need to come to each other and be like, baby, it's not. What you've been through is not okay. What you have been through is traumatic. Like, that's the first step of really healing as we grow into adults, right? Oh, thank you. Is growing as adults is realizing, okay, this is affecting me. I understand that I'm dealing with something. This particular thing from my childhood made me feel some type of way, and I still feel some type of way. Acknowledging, okay, something here may not be right. Now, therapy, you can't make everybody go to therapy, right? I think the best thing you can do, I don't go to therapy no more because of the prices, right? But when I did go, if you find somebody that's relatable to you, especially being a black woman. I felt more comfortable talking to somebody that's black too. You know, talking about experiences of like, you know, being a little kid and I was outside playing in the dirt, because I used to play in the dirt. I used to stay with a wing worm, and witnessing somebody shoot up my neighbor house because he was the snitch in the neighborhood, and my grandmother snatching me from my, like, you see how I'm talking about that? Like, that's not normal. That's not normal to be outside playing in the dirt and witness somebody, you know, ride past your neighbor's house that's across from yours and shoot it up while you're outside. Like, that's not normal. that's not normal at all. And see how I'm laughing in a way, that's the way I cope with things, by making a joke and finding, yes, I have acknowledged these things, right? That's the thing, that's how I'm actually healing with it. It's acknowledging, like, how do I cope with things? Through humor, by being funny, right? Even in school, I was funny. People thought I was funny. And maybe I was using that to cope with the fact that I was hurting. You know, I went through a really hard time when I lost my grandmother. Like, that's the one person that I know in this world that truly gave a fuck about me, that actually loved me, right? So going to school, you know, being like, you know, laughing and making people laugh and like, that probably was my way of coping when I knew I was going home when I was really, really sad due to the circumstances. You know, everybody cope in different particular ways, you know, and don't even get me started on people who have been through, you know, traumatic events. You know, I met a girl who lived in New York around the time that 9/11 happened. And she's the same age as me, because I was like 10 at the time that happened. And she talked about, you know, how scared she was because I think a particular uncle of hers lives by, you know, she always talks about how every time that date comes around, she gets scared. Like, she talked about how she doesn't even like going over there where, you know, that particular terrorist attack happened, because it scared her, you know, it traumatized her. You know what I'm saying? So these are all these things that we have been through throughout our childhood has affected us, especially my generation. I'm a 90s babies. I would say 80s babies and 90s babies. Like, oh my God, like, and I say this in a jokingly way, but we are truly fucked up. I'm just trying to say it in a nice way, but we are truly fucked up, because even though my circumstances are not as bad as others, maybe to me, maybe because I'm just, you know, like I've said, you know, how we suppress things, but even talking to many people who are in my age group, the amount of things that they've been through, like, you know, talking to women especially who, you know, who confide in me about being sexually abused by people in the church or people in their family members, how they say it so casually when that's not okay, right? And then somebody like me who hasn't really coped or know how to handle my own trauma, just respond. I'm just thinking back to like a particular experience of mine that I went through, where somebody, you know, was telling me something personal, and they said it to me so casually, and we just moved on and talked about something else, like, because I don't think we both knew how to go from there, right? And this is why I think that even talking to somebody in therapy who has more experience and more guidance, because us as peers talking to one another about our trauma, majority of us, right? I think I read about 78 or 79% of us have trauma, okay? So if we're trying to go to each other about traumatic shit, how is that gonna go? Like how is that gonna go? Right? Talking to somebody who's... This is a reminder to drink water. Girl, shut up. Y'all hear Alexa back there on her nose there. Ain't nobody calling, girl. Goodbye. But, like, how do we go from that, having those conversations when we all have been through trauma, trying to talk to each other, trying to heal, right? It's like, what's that particular saying where you can't heal, like you can't heal in the same place that hurt you or something like that, right? How can you heal with somebody who's also hurting as well? Like, it's good as us as friends to talk about particular things that we've gone through, but I feel like in order for us to truly heal, to know that we are getting the proper care that we need, and somebody's actually listening to us and understanding us and giving us the proper tools to get through this, I think it's best that we talk to people in different ways. Because even growing, I didn't tell none of my friends about the things I was going through. The way I mask what the fuck I'm going through is phenomenal. And many of other people do that too. You really would mask what's going on, especially when you have adults around you who don't even check on you as a child. Like, how many of you all can actually ask yourself, like your parents ask you, was everything okay? Or you wish, okay, that's weird. You wish like a parent or somebody around you or a family member asks you, like, is everything okay? You know, I pay attention to my daughter so, like, let me tell you something. I know my daughter so well because I pay attention to her. I can look at the face expression on her face and know something's not right. I ask her, you okay? Mm-hmm. You sure you okay? Yeah. I asked her a third time. She finally tells me what's wrong. You know, that's the approach that I've learned as parents, because we got to make it comfortable for kids to come to us and talk to us about things. But you got to show you care and you got to be involved. And many of us don't know what the fuck we are doing. But one thing I always tell people, that I don't have a lot of I don't have no role models. There's nobody I grew up with like, oh my God, I want to be like them. Right? The only people that I have around me growing up was people that I didn't want to be nothing like. So I've used that situation to help me in life, especially with parenting. You know, I'm very involved in my daughter's schoolwork. I'm going in her room, figuring out what she's wrong. You know, I'm constantly, hey, is everything okay? I even ask my daughter, like, what do you think about me? Me as a mommy. I want to know, do you feel comfortable with me as a mom? Am I getting on you too much? Am I yelling too much? Like, am I making you uncomfortable, right? When I ask my daughter, the more things she say is patience, patience. I don't have a lot of patience, right? So when she's telling me that, I'm like, okay, well, let me have a little bit more patience, just calm it down. Those are important things that I think we can do to help our kids, if you have kids or your future kids and stuff like that. So I think I did all right with this. This was really, really hard to talk about because I don't like being vulnerable, especially when it comes to me. And that's, part of my childhood trauma. I don't like being a victim. I don't like people feeling sorry for me. I don't ask nobody for shit. Absolutely not. And I know that ain't good. But it's just, I don't even know if I can handle it. I don't know if I can get through it. I guess that's just a work in progress. I guess I would have to just meet somebody who makes me feel safe coming to them. They're not gonna, brag about it or tell it everybody in the streets. Like, I guess that's a way, that I can probably get through that. But I don't like being vulnerable about this particular things because I haven't truly healed all the way from my childhood trauma. And if you haven't healed from your childhood trauma, it's okay. Like, we all day by day are doing the best that we can do. So don't be hard on yourself because the key word in this is childhood trauma. You were a child. As children, we are innocent. Right? We are innocent. We are innocent beings. We was brought in this world. We ain't asked to fucking be here. You know what I'm saying? So don't make yourself feel bad about particular things that you've been through or how you're dealing with it as well. We always doing the best that we can. But if you're experiencing depression, you're experiencing, PTS or, even health issues, like, what's so crazy is, like, I didn't even know that a lot of chronic illnesses can, be related to, a lot of childhood trauma. Like, think about it. a lot of particular people have witnessed a lot of abuse in their household, so they grow up, nerves are really bad. The nerves are bad because they was in such a tense situation. So a lot of people grow up and they have a lot of health issues, and it all stems back to childhood issues. Depending on how long you was going through that, ain't that some scary shit? So I feel like if you once you recognize that something's something's like not right. Like nobody knows you better than you. Like nobody knows you better than you. I'm telling you. Like when you're not feeling good, who knows you're not feeling good? First, you or your friends or your man or your kids, So even when you're sick and you have a cold, like you're not feeling good. You know what's going on with you first. So if you're experiencing any type of issue, depression or anxiety, like you're not feeling right. It just takes the courage to, go to somebody and talk to somebody. And even if you don't know how to find a particular, counselor, I would suggest getting on these social media platforms. There are many of them on social media, on TikTok. Like we're in a place now where they have a whole directory of like, you can find like counselors or therapists in your area by zip code, by race, so you can feel comfortable talking to them about, thank you so much, about what you're going through. That's how I found the one that I had went through. I went on I can't even remember what it was. It was like a few years ago, but I went on one that was directly me to black therapists because I wanted to talk. I wanted to talk to somebody that looked like me. Can kind of relate. Even if you can't relate to me with my experience, you black. You black. You get it. Right? So that's it. All right. This was different. This was different. Oh shit. But I'm very proud of myself. Because I did not want to do this. I did not want to talk about this. Like this is like too much for me, Because I'm still like, I've gone through things, still going through things, I guess, that I have not worked out of. But I feel like I'm probably at the most peaceful place in my life. This is probably the most peaceful place in my life I've ever been. Because I've cleaned house. I've cleaned house with everybody who was benefiting towards, no, not benefiting, that's the best word I can say is, contributing to my mental health not being good. Boom. That's it. That's another thing. I don't tell people what to do. But I will say, sometimes we go through things, but sometimes people around us are the reason why we are dealing with what we are dealing through. So I'm not telling people what to do, but I'll just make a suggestion that sometimes you have to clean house. Now how you clean your storage and clean your closet out during the spring, you do some cleaning out. And you may be like, what do you mean by that? Change some numbers, move away, block some people, clean house. That's what I mean by that, all right? So that was good, y'all. Happy holidays. This is probably going to be the last big show that I'm going to be doing. But honestly, I can't even explain what I'm feeling right now. I don't know. I don't know what I've been going through, but I know I'm at this stage where I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to be bothered. I've been being invited to a lot of social events. I've been turning them down. I've been turning down dates. I've been deleting people DMs because I've been putting my phone on do not disturb because I just don't want to be bothered. So, I hope nobody don't take it personally and think it's you. But sometimes people just need to be by their fucking selves for a little minute to really get their thoughts together. Like, don't nobody want to be constantly bothered. And as somebody who's her only child, who spent a lot of time by herself, having time to myself in my house, watching my shows, eating good food with my child, that's what I need. I don't need to be around, I don't want to be around fake ass industry people. That's the nicest, well, I don't know if that's the nicest way. Shit, I was like, that's the nicest way. I said, well, that didn't come off too nice, did it? That's some real shit. That's some really real shit. That's really, because like I said, the shit that I've been through, like I don't even trust my own fucking family, okay? So if I don't trust my own family or want to rock with them or don't do rock with them, what make people think I want to hang with some fake ass industry people? No. No, not at all. All right. So that's, I guess, I don't know. I don't know how to sugarcoat nothing. It's either all the way blunt or all the way sweet. And I tried to give y'all, I tried to say in between, but it didn't come out like that. So I throw my hands up. All right. Happy holidays, everybody. This is going to be on Spotify and YouTube tonight. So I did the best I could to really talk about this particular topic as well. But this is a really touchy topic that when you currently have not healed from your childhood trauma, it's really hard to talk about it. All right. But I appreciate everybody who voted for this in the poll as well. And if you on here, I can't even really see who's all on here. It's just some people. I can't even really see who all. Probably some. You know, these are probably people from YouTube. Yeah, I appreciate a lot of people from YouTube. A lot of people from YouTube follow me on Instagram, and I truly do appreciate that. And I appreciate you all. I'm out.